It's time for me to give my breakdown and predictions for every single fight on UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Imavov. Now, this is a rough card, all right? But because we've been doing so well, I have a short film for you guys. A documentary crew reached out to me about a month ago, and they wanted to document the streak. You know, me getting a lot of good predictions, having a winning record every single weekend. I agreed, and the film is ready. I'm going to show you guys this movie before I get into my picks. The timestamps are in the description, as always, if you just want to hear a take of mine on a particular one of these fights. But before we get into these fights, enjoy the movie.
I mean, the first thing we should ask is, tell us about the 57%.
Well, I'll take you guys back. We're going to see what the Weasel said about me. Apparently, the Weasel brought up my predictions. Okay, so this guy asked the Weasel, pick rankings for 2024. There have been 10 events this year. Weasel 70%? Dude, there's no way the Weasel has 70% predictions. There's no way.
The Weasel.
First thing that jumps out at me is that the Weasel's at the #1 spot. Everyone knows the Weasel in 2024 doesn't pick early prelims on fight nights. So right off the bat, I took that a little bit personal. And I'm scrolling down the list. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I don't even see my name yet. And think about it like this. Fuck, dude. I'm like, am I last? 57. All right, well, 57 ain't that bad for this year, bro. There's no way. I don't buy that, dude. I'm not 57. There's no way I'm only at 57. There's no way I'm 57. You basically flip a coin? I don't flip a coin, dude. There's no way. How is that possible? Dude, this fucker that tallied him up probably went to like my last 2 fight nights and said, this guy, you know, not that good, 57%. I didn't like being in the bottom tier of the prediction guys. That didn't sit well with me. And I knew we had to make a change. And it was actually moments after reading that where we went and we made our change. The night of Brendan Allen versus Crybaby Curtis. There we go. He's going to flatten him out with these. Yeah. Get him out of there. Yes. Let's go. What up? Brendan Allen gets it done. 9-1.
Lucas, at what point did you realize that there was something special going on in the air?
It had to be the Yuri Prohaska fight. Yeah. When I picked Yuri Prohaska, I picked him on that holy martial arts ghost. There was something special going on that night. Boom! He rocked Radtke! Big shot! Big shot from Yuri. Yeah! Let's go! Yuri KOs him! And Pereira's doing a great job at blocking these with his arms. A little bit of a nut shot. Alex says it's all good, though. Alex says it's all good. Oh! He just dropped Jamal Hill! He's out cold! Alex Pereira knocks out Jamal Hill! Lewis! Big shot from Lewis! He hurt Nascimento! It's over! Derek Lewis wins by KO! Great energy and amazing crowd. And on picks, I went 8-4. UFC Fight Night Edson Barbozi. Overall on this card, I went 6-2.
Lucas Tracy, there's no fucking way he got the best picks tonight.
How does he keep doing?
We're going to twice! We're going to twice!
Swung on a deep drive to deep left field. It is high. It is far. It is gone.
A big home run for Lucas Tracy, and he is taking a 5-0 lead. 5 predictions correct tonight.
Nice.
0 wrong. Off to a great start. 5-0 to start the night.
All the things he's accomplished, all the things he's done. Look at what he did tonight. It was insane. It was insane. People were going nuts.
Pantoja wins. And we go 10-1. Yeah, let's go! 10-1, baby! 10-1, baby! Oh my God! Oh my God, he just subbed him! Oh my God, Islam Makhachev just subbed him with a Darce in the 5th round. Finishes
Dustin, submission for Islam Makhachev. Darce choked with staph infection. Blind as a bat, pale as a ghost, weak as a cardboard box. A big home run for Lucas Tracy, and he's 10-0 on picks tonight.
And as we tally up the picks, number 1, Lucas Tracy for the 3rd week in a row.
Can you believe this? Another week of good predictions. Unbelievable.
Since that 57% statistic came out, we have since gone 71% on predictions. And, I just went out there and I did my best. I got there and I got to 71%. I just want to thank everybody for the support. Will the streak continue? Will we have a winning record this weekend? Will we continue to lead the charge on MMA YouTube's predictions? All right, either way, let's get down to it. The first fight of the night, guys, let's break these down. Starting off with none other than Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapilus. I'm going with Taylor Lapilus, guys. I'm picking Taylor Lapilus to win this fight. He's not been so active, which is an issue, but he looked really good against Caolin Loughran. Now, Caolin Loughran, to me, is a doppelganger of Cody Stamann, and that's ultimately why I am picking Taylor Lapilus. I will say that Caolin Loughran, the big, powerful puncher from Ireland that had some hype from the Irish fans, he's not on the level of Cody Stamann. Cody Stamann has been in there with some of the most elite fighters like Merab Dvalishvili, but he's always lost to them. Granted, he's lost a bunch of those by decision, but he's getting older, and I think that the guys that Cody Stamann's beating as of recent are not on the level of Taylor Lapilus. Taylor Lapilus, fast on the feet, very calculated striker, picks his shots really well. And Cody Stamann, again, just kind of a mediocre fighter that's sort of well-rounded, that's got some wrestling in his arsenal. T-Rex arms, though, big thudding punches, not a whole lot of pop, not a whole lot of KO power. He's been around forever. I think his body is probably more beat up than Taylor Lapilus, who is, even though he's inactive, he's probably more refreshed than Cody Stamann. I'm picking Taylor Lapilus to win this by an easy, clear decision, outstriking and outpointing Cody Stamann. He has the speed advantage, he has the range advantage, and I believe he's just a much better striker with decent takedown defense. Taylor Lapilus is getting this one done. Fair enough, he lost to one of the Basharat Bros, but Cody Stamann doesn't have the same level of grappling as the Basharat Bros, or doesn't even have the same ability to have like a long-rangey, evasive style on the feet as the Basharat Bros. Okay, so I think that Cody Stamann is less effective than them in the striking too when it comes to a matchup with Taylor Lapilus. Taylor Lapilus gets this one done by decision. On to the next one. An absolute banger. Eduarda Moura versus Denise Gomes. Now, I'm picking Eduarda Moura based on the fact that she's jacked and she's coming off the Contender Series. I think I saw her fight on the Contender Series where she annihilated her opponent. She kind of looks like Big Paulo Costa. And Denise Gomes, to be honest, I'm not picking her to win this fight. She just has no aura, all right? She's got the build of someone that's just a victim for Eduarda Moura. So, to be honest, I'm going to rock with Eduarda Moura based on just being in better shape, based on being stronger and more dangerous. I think she's more dangerous than Denise Gomes. Let's get on to the next one. Daniel Marcos versus John Castaneda. John Castaneda is tough, but Daniel Marcos is proven against decent levels of competition. He's beat Davey Grant. He had a no contest in his last fight, which is really unfortunate because I picked him to win that, and I did really well on the card. I remember, we talk about, me being the janitor. We did clean up on that card back in the day too. He's 15-0, which is pretty impressive. Of course, the one no contest, but still, I think Daniel Marcos is extending this win streak, okay? 15-0. Now, John Castaneda, I believe he went to a decision with the mole, Muin Gufarov, who, got destroyed by Said Nurmagomedov. I think that Daniel Marcos, I don't think he beats Said Nurmagomedov, but I do believe that he would at least have somewhat of a competitive fight with him. John Castaneda is going to a decision with the mole.
And I just don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't like the fact that that was such a fun fight. I don't like the fact that there was a legend made in that fight because of Muin-Gafadov's success. Muin-Gafadov goes on and gets sliced and diced, submitted and knocked out at the same time. You know what Said Nurmagomedov does to guys. He head kicks them and subs them, wraps them up easily, right? I just think that Daniel Marcos is a slicker striker. I think he's a smarter striker. He's efficient. I'm going to pick Daniel Marcos to outstrike John Castaneda by decision. Now, John Castaneda could pull out the wrestling. He definitely could. He has decent takedowns. Not necessarily the best control, though, and I think that Marcos will be able to get up to his feet if he gets taken down by Castaneda. But let's get on to the next one. Brad Katona versus Jesse Butler. Jesse Butler moving down from lightweight. This is crazy. So right off the bat, we're going to have to talk about skill gap and divisional skill gaps. When in doubt, you should always pick the fighter that's fighting in a division that has the better skill. And that would normally be bantamweight as opposed to a 55er. Now, the reason why Jesse Butler is moving down is because he got knocked out by Jim Miller in like 20 seconds in the first round of their fight. He had no business being at 55 to begin with. So this wasn't like a guy that was cutting a lot of weight to get down to 55. He had no business being at 55. He wasn't even that lean. Now he's cutting to 35. Think of him like a featherweight, all right? Think of him like a featherweight. Brad Katona at least needs to have some pop in his hands. He at least needs to be a finisher, at least needs to be dangerous for that skill gap to really show between the divisions, and he's just not. Brad Katona not only has what may be the shortest reach in UFC history at 64.5 inches, but he has no sting on his shots. He has no ability to control people whatsoever. I think that Brad Katona's wrestling is the thing that's been hyped up ever since he first fought on Tough. Two-time Tough winner. We're going to get into that. I mean, first of all, how bad do you have to be a two-time Tough winner to get cut from the UFC? That's just a horrible look. But his wrestling's overrated. I think I was tempted to pick him to win his last fight. Maybe I even fucking did. You know what? I actually picked him to win his last fight. But he keeps disappointing us and proving that fighters from the McGregor and Chandler season of Tough absolutely suck compared to regular UFC fighters. Like, they can make it, but that's about it. It's like me at heavyweight, right? If I'm bloat maxing up to heavyweight, I can make it. I can't necessarily go far. I think Jesse Butler, 73-inch reach, that's a huge reach advantage, almost 10-inch reach advantage. I think he's going to be a lot taller. How tall is Brad Katona? 5'6" compared to 5'10". Brad Katona, no ability to finish a fly, not a great ability to keep people on the ground, nowhere near the sting or power levels of a Jim Miller. I think that Jesse Butler, I think he's going to be able to outstrike Brad Katona. And I think I won't even be surprised if we see Jesse Butler dominate this dude, honestly. I mean, I know Jesse Butler got KO'd by Jim Miller, but he's not lost before that since like 2019. So it's been a minute since Jesse Butler's gotten beat. Jim Miller did it, but Jim Miller's on a whole other level to Brad Katona. Going with Jesse Butler. It's an easy pick in this one. On to the next one. Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa. You know, Montana De La Rosa, she has that name. She has that name that people just kind of feel like, you know, I've kind of heard that name a million times on predictions and I've skipped past it a million times. Or, man, I must have seen her fight on a million cards. To be honest, I haven't even checked her record. I mean, but like, she's like Mitch Raposo's like the guy that you see on every single season of Tough. Montana De La Rosa's like the name of a woman you hear on every single MMA full card prediction video that you skip past immediately, right? So there's that. Andrea Lee, you know, we kind of know her. She's been robbed. Forget which fight that was against. I remember she fought on the Holloway and Brendan Allen card. Now, again, I'm doing this because people want me to pick these women's fights. So fuck it. I'll give you guys my prediction. But do not for a second think that I'm like getting into the X's and O's. Yeah, you know, I just really got to break down some Andrea Lee type. Are you kidding me? None of you guys want that. Come on. All right? The pick is Andrea Lee. Come on. She's in better shape. She's pretty jacked. She's fast. She's a striker, and she lost to that, I forget her name, that Brazilian woman that's like always faint maxing, like she's Adesanya. I got really pissed off in that, but you know, Hey, Andrea Lee made it to a decision. To be fair, she probably would have gotten finished if, Natalia Silva actually tried to knock her out. But Montana De La Rosa, I just, maybe she can pull out a takedown in there. You never know. She seems like someone that can get a takedown. Kind of reminds me of Felicia Spencer. So, you could always see her steamroll Andrea Lee like a local barge. But I'm going with Andrea Lee. I think she's going to win this fight. All right, let's get on to the next one. All right, back to real fights. All right. Charles Radtke versus Carlos Prates. Charles the Salt Man Radtke, straight out of the salt mines, what may be the saltiest fighter in UFC history, right next to Joe Pyfer and Salty Mall Hill. So right off the bat, this guy's coming into this fight with a whole load of salt. Pissed off, angry. You ask him a question at a press conference, he'll tell you to go fuck yourself. Now, Charles Radtke just doesn't understand that at a press conference, that's your time to kind of, get acquainted with the fans, sort of become known, and actually you can leverage becoming known amongst the fans for, making money, for becoming a bigger star. I don't think he's caught on to that, but either way, he's coming in this fight with some fury. Carlos Prates didn't necessarily have the performance that I wanted to see him have against Trevin Giles. I thought he was going to steamroll Trevin Giles and kind of make him look easy. Now, Giles is not an easy guy to KO, but I still picked Carlos Prates to get it done by KO. I think he got it at the end of the second round. Long, straight right hand down the pipe. Really good shot. He reminds me of a young Anderson Silva with the way that he strikes. Very unorthodox with his kicks. Has very long, rangy punches that come down the pipe. Wiry man striking game right here. He's got pop on the end of these shots. Charles Radtke at a big disadvantage when it comes to reach and when it comes to height. And Radtke looked all right in his last fight against Urbina. I picked against him because he looked terrible in his Blood Diamond fight. Him and Blood Diamond actually looked to be similar level, but Radtke improved his striking, was able to rock Urbina at one point, and was able to actually look a lot better, but he's nowhere near the level of Carlos Prates. And Prates has been beat before. He has been finished and out-grappled. There is a possibility that Charles Radtke can do that to him, but I just think that the difference in striking this time, I think Carlos Prates is a whole bunch of levels above Gilbert Urbina on the feet. He's a lot faster, he's a lot trickier, and he's a finisher. If he catches you with the right shot, which could be a front kick, could be a head kick, right? He's got really good leg kicks as well, or it could just be a good old-fashioned straight down the pipe. If he catches you with one of those at the end of a combination or counters you with something where he can hit you and you can't hit him, at the end of his shots, he's got some power. So I'm going with Carlos Prates to win this fight. Again, not many people knock out Trevin Giles. You have to be pretty powerful to do that. He was able to do it. Carlos Prates is going to win this by KO. I'll say a first or second round KO. Maybe Radtke can get going in the later half of this fight if Carlos Prates kind of gasses out a little bit. If he can get to Carlos Prates' hips to take him down, then we could see something like that. But I think Prates is beating this guy up on the feet, knocking his ass out, sending him back to the salt mines. Let's get on to the next one. Ludovit Klein versus Thiago Moises. Moises is coming off of a win calf kick situation. Before that, he got dominated by Benoit St. Denis. Ludovit Klein coming off of a dominant performance over Cunningham, AJ Cunningham. Highlight reel-worthy performance. And before that, he beat Ignacio Bahamondes. And since then, even though Ignacio forgot he had legs that night, didn't throw any kicks, since then, he's done nothing but win. That win is age 12 for Ludovit Klein. I think that there's a level of opponent that Thiago Moises beats, and I think that Ludovit Klein is about one slight cut above that, right? Moises, he's beaten Mitch Ramirez. You know what I mean? Moises, he's beaten absolute bums. He's beaten cans. Ludovit Klein, if you were to ask me right after he fought Jai Herbert, where he went to decision with him, and it was a bit of a pitter-pat, patty cake, NPC sort of action on the feet, doing a whole bunch of nothing, I would have said, yeah, I don't think he's on that level. But, dude, his boxing looks really good. He looks dangerous. He's imposing his will. He's moving forward. He's aggressive. He's a big, strong lightweight as well. And I think that Moises, if he doesn't get a first-round submission, if he doesn't get a takedown in the first opening few minutes, I think he's going to get beat up. I think he's going to take damage. And I think he's going to fold. Because when people start beating up Thiago Moises, he folds. We saw it in the Benoit St. Denis fight. We saw it in the Joel Alvarez fight where he got TKO'd in both of those bouts. And I think that Ludovit Klein, even if he doesn't finish Thiago Moises, just beating him up I think it's going to lead him to a decision. Either way, I think I'm going to pick him by a KO in the second round. Moises has been finished a lot in his career. And Ludovit Klein, he's rapidly improving. Young guy. That's why I don't think he did very well against Jai Herbert. I think he was a little bit inexperienced compared to how he is today. He seems to be rapidly improving. And I have high hopes for Ludovit Klein. I actually am keeping my eye on him. He's a pretty good prospect at this point. We know what we're going to get from Moises. He's going to be shooting takedowns, looking for a rear naked choke, looking to take the back. But he's not spamming them. And I don't think it's going to be that serious of a threat. And he's just not got anything for Ludovit Klein to worry about on the feet. So I'm picking Ludovit Klein by second round KO or decision based on damage. Let's get on to the next one. Miguel Baeza versus Punahele Soriano. It's been a minute since Miguel Baeza's fought. He's been KO'd a few times by Andre Fialho when Fialho went on that mean streak where he got 3 KOs in a row and he was fighting every other month. Punahele Soriano is coming off of a horrible loss to Dustin Stoltzfus. And it's not just that he got finished and got submitted. It's the way he lost. Punahele Soriano is the guy where we want to see him throw big power shots, bombs. We want him to knock people out and try to knock people out. Against Dustin Stoltzfus, he was too reserved. He wasn't putting anything on his strikes. He was fighting like an NPC. There were no power punches from Punahele Soriano. Nothing with ill intent. And I hated that look. He's inconsistent. Maybe he goes out here, he throws a gnarly overhand over the top. I think he has the power advantage in this fight. Miguel Baez has been put away a few times. I could see Punahele Soriano knocking him out, but I hate the fact that he lost to Dustin Stoltzfus. Stoltzfus was a meme before his last fight. Stoltzfus was the guy that fought Abus Magomedov, and that was Magomedov's only win before he fought Sean Strickland, and I was saying, dude, Stoltzfus has 1 win in the UFC, 4 losses. He's beat a can. He's not good. He's on the verge of getting cut. This is who you guys are picking to beat Strickland? Punahele Soriano lost to that guy. Lost to the guy that got destroyed by Abus Magomedov. And it wasn't even because he got his ass kicked that badly. It's just his approach, his mentality. He fought like he had a battery pack in him. You know, like he was a robot that was programmed to throw 5 strikes with nothing on him per round. Just floating around and just accepting defeat. I'm going to pick Miguel Baeza, right? He's been finished a few times, but he's still pretty young and he's going to have the range advantage. He still has some decent power in his hands. He's got a good check left hook as well. And I think he'll be able to keep Punahele Soriano at range with kicks, with jabs, long rangey attacks. He's been out of the cage for a while. I'm sure that he's improved. He's recovered since he's been KO'd. I think he's going to get this one done by decision over the very lackluster Punahele Soriano that's coming out of his loss to Dustin Stoltzfus. On to the next one, Zachary Reese versus Julian Marquez. Zachary Reese got slammed by Cody Brundage and knocked out badly in his last fight. Real bad look for Zachary Reese. He's got jiu-jitsu. He's got decent jiu-jitsu. He can be pretty dangerous with that. Good ground and pound. He's got great cardio. But Julian Marquez is more tested in the UFC. He's fought better levels of competition. Yeah, he's been KO'd a few times by Gregory Rodriguez. He's been KO'd, Julian Marquez. He's gassed out badly. Could Zachary Reese get to Julian Marquez's gas tank? Yes. He could put him up against the fence. That does seem to be Zachary Reese's game. Put someone on the fence, try to knee them in the clinch, take them down, out-grapple them, ground and pound shots, try to go for a submission. I think that he's probably beating Julian Marquez. Marquez's only chance, in my opinion, is to slug big overhands, big bombs over the top. And he's lacking in reach. He's got a 5-inch reach disadvantage. When it comes to the height, he's going to be shorter than Zachary Reese. He's not as fresh as Zachary Reese. I'm picking Zachary Reese to get this one done by a finish on the ground. I'll say second or third round submission when Julian Marquez gasses out, because that does seem to be a theme in Marquez's career. I'll go with Zachary Reese by submission. Let's get on to the next one. Speaking of Dustin Stoltzfus, here he is fighting the knockout artist Bruno Ferreira, who is coming off of a big KO win in his last fight against Phil Hawes. Now, Phil Hawes we know is chinny. It's easier to KO Phil Hawes than it is to knock out Dustin Stoltzfus, but Phil Hawes is still decent with his wrestling. He's still decent with his striking. It's just that he has no chin. Is it an impressive win? No, not by any means, but Bruno Ferreira has basically knocked out every single guy that he's fought up until Nursultan Ruziboyev. But it wasn't the worst loss. He threw a kick, he got his kick caught, and he got punched in the face once. Not the worst loss. It's not like he's lost a 5-round decision and we saw lots of holes in his game. This guy knocked out Gregory Rodriguez, knocked him out cold. Dustin Stoltzfus, 2 wins in the UFC. One of them is fluky as ever, right? Dude, I mean, I say it's fluky, but Punahele Soriano fought like a total NPC. It's not fluky. He fought like a man that needed a win that night. But I have to go with Bruno Ferreira. I mean, Dustin Stoltzfus fought the worst version of Punahele Soriano you could ever imagine. And I'm picking against Punahele Soriano because of how bad he looked in that fight, which should tell you that I don't really believe in Dustin Stoltzfus being that good, even though he was able to win his last fight. I'm picking Bruno Ferreira to KO Dustin Stoltzfus. On to the next one. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Turcios. I'm picking Raul Rosas Jr. to finish Ricky Turcios by a rear naked choke or submission. All right, now I do think that Rosas is going to outstrike Ricky Turcios on the feet, and I don't think he's that good on the feet, but he's coming off of a KO win, which is going to give him some confidence. He's bulked up a little bit since his last few fights. I mean, he's only 19 years old, so Rosas is still going to be able to grow into this weight class quite a bit. I think he's going to beat the shit out of Ricky Turcios everywhere this fight goes. Ricky Turcios, decision merchant, can't finish a fly, doesn't impose his will. He's one of these, he's kind of like a poor man's Chase Hooper, like an awkward fighter, but he's awkward without any danger. You know what I mean? He's awkward, but he doesn't fight people and get in their face and really do anything special. And he's not like an elusive, creative striker or anything like that. He's got okay grappling, but he's nothing but a tough out, Ricky Turcios. He's nothing but a tough out. The UFC knows what they're doing, and I know what the UFC's doing. They're booking Raul Rosas Jr. up with a mid-tier opponent for him to beat up on because this is a slow roll. They don't want to rush Raul Rosas. He already lost to Christian Rodriguez, and to be fair, he dominated Rodriguez in the first round, but it is kind of Rodriguez's style to be the nail early on in his fights to hope that people gas out. Either way, Raul Rosas is still really good on the ground. Okay, he's got great wrestling. He's got good takedown entries. And he showed some sting in his hands in his last fight. He's going to beat Ricky Turcios just by being the more dangerous fighter, imposing his will, actually making it a point to finish the fight or bring it in a certain realm instead of just floating around the octagon doing a whole bunch of nothing. So I'm picking Raul Rosas Jr. Let's get on to the next fight. Dominick Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby. I'm picking Reyes. I mean, this is an easy fight to pick. Dustin Jacoby's an old head, and, he didn't beat John Jones. Dominick Reyes beat John Jones, so how could I not pick him? But for real, though, this is an interesting fight because we've been saying for a while that Dominick Reyes needs to mix in the wrestling, and he's not listened. But to be fair, even though he's been knocked out 3 times, it feels like he's been KO'd 10 times, right? It just feels like that. Like Dominick Reyes, for the past 5 years, the guy that got knocked out in his last fight. That's what it seems like, right? But I think that it wasn't until his last fight, because think about it, he got outstruck by Jan Blachowicz, got TKO'd. Took a lot of damage in the Yuri Prohaska fight, got butchered, got TKO'd. If there was ever a moment for Dominick Reyes to reconsider a different style for his fighting career, it was probably after that. But, he probably went in there with Ryan Spann, looked at it as a serious drop down in competition, and thought to himself, I'll just strike with him. And he found out the hard way. In this fight, he knows that Dustin Jacoby is a high-level striker. He knows Jacoby has a glory kickboxing background, and he knows that he's been KO'd 3 times in a row. And if he gets knocked out again, his life is going to be different forever. It already is based on the damage he took, but he could get cut from the UFC. I think we're going to see Dominick Reyes wrestle. I think we are going to see him wrestle a little bit. I just don't know if it's going to be when it's too late. Like, will Dominick Reyes shoot a takedown after he eats a couple of combinations, a couple of stiff jabs from Dustin Jacoby? Now, Jacoby's not that powerful, but this is Reyes that we're talking about. Dude got knocked out with a jab. It was a tough jab. It was a strong jab from Ryan Spann, but still, you don't want to get knocked out that badly.
off of a jab. And Dustin Jacoby has outstruck the likes of Khalil Roundtree. He outstruck Alonzo Menafield. He lost to Alonzo Menafield, but that's because Menafield dropped him a few times. I think Reyes' power is overrated too. I know he knocked out Chris Weidman. Weidman was kind of small for the light heavyweight division. He was an old head anyway. I know Reyes has KO'd a couple of guys. KO'd Jared Cannonier back in the day, but I don't know. I've not been seeing any like crazy Dominick Reyes power recently. So I'm picking Dustin Jacoby to knock him out. Yeah, guys, I gotta be honest. I'm picking Jacoby to knock Reyes out. Like, I think Reyes can win if he can wrestle because he has good takedown defense. Maybe he can just reverse it. And Jacoby doesn't have the best gas tank. He doesn't have the best fight IQ either because he had a gassed out Azamat Mirzakhanov in front of him and wasn't really able to capitalize. It actually decided to wrestle himself instead of outstrike him, which was really silly. But, yeah, I think Reyes is going to take too long to get going if he tries to wrestle. And if he tries to strike, I think he'll have success until he gets caught. And he will get caught. And he will get caught with clean shots against a striker at the level of Justin Jacoby. So Jacoby's going to KO him, sort of like he did to Kennedy Nzechukwu. Unfortunately, and I think this is it for Dominick Reyes. But I hope he wins. Of course, like all of you guys, I hope he wins. Let's get on to the next one. Main event, Jared Cannonier versus Nassourdine Imavov. I was actually considering picking Nassourdine Imavov because I think that Jared Cannonier is a little bit chinny. And people don't like to discuss that, right? He's been rocked by Marvin Vettori. He shrunk to half of his size in the first round against Marvin Vettori and then was able to get some momentum. And then Marvin Vettori was the guy that shrunk in that fight. Jared Cannonier coming off of a record-setting performance. He's old, though. Damn near 40 years old. He might be 39, might be 40. I forget his exact age. Is it on here? No, it's not. But he's old, Jared Cannonier. He's been out for a minute. Is he going to be able to perform at the same level in which he performed against Marvin Vettori? Because in that fight, it wasn't only the fact that his accuracy looked good and he beat up Marvin and he landed a bunch of good strikes, but his cardio was insane. In the second and third round, there are moments where Cannonier looks like he's just doing a pad session in the gym, hitting pads, landing everything at will, walking forward the entire time while doing it. Muay Thai combos, knees, elbows, punches, mixing it up, you name it. And he was able to do that for like 10 minutes straight. Slowed down a little bit in the later rounds, but still beat the fuck out of Vettori. One of the best performances I've ever seen at middleweight. And he got beat up in the first round a bit. I mean, that performance is insane. And I just can't pick against him in this fight because Nassourdine Imavov, even though he's really fast in the early goings of his fights, and he's got good kicks, I like his oblique kicks. I like how he can double up on oblique kicks and front kicks to the midsection. That's another really good weapon for him in this fight. Midsection, front kicks for Nassourdine Imavov. He's going to be digging to the body of Jared Cannonier. Almost folded Roman Dolidze on a couple of occasions with those when he was mixing them in after his combinations that were landing on the chin of Roman Dolidze. There were a couple moments where he almost finished Dolidze in that fight. The fact that he couldn't do it is not necessarily a good look, right? But if there's a time where Cannonier is going to get finished, it's probably in the early rounds with Nassourdine Imavov, right? But I think that if Nassourdine Imavov doesn't put Cannonier away early, because he's going to have the speed advantage, he's going to have the range advantage, Cannonier is going to snowball, all right? Because Cannonier knows how to make adjustments. He's shown that in high-level fights before with people like Sean Strickland, right? We even saw it after his first hard-fought round against Marvin Vettori. Lost that round, got rocked, and then beat the shit out of Marvin Vettori for the rest of the fight. He knows how to make adjustments. He's got a good ability to mix it up from the head to the body. He can throw kicks to the body, throw kicks to the legs. He's got amazing cardio, and that's the thing. His last performance showed that he's got insanely good cardio. His ground and pound is good. You know what, though? Everyone is scoffing over this, or not even touching on it. Nassourdine Imavov might take Jared Cannonier down and submit him. That's also a possibility. I actually think that would be a pretty wise game plan because Cannonier, let's be honest, I know he's like a strong guy and all that, but he's almost been choked out by Derek Brunson, right? Nobody has, and Whitaker kind of outgrappled him a bit after he rocked him. I think Nassourdine Imavov is a better control grappler
than even a guy like Robert Whittaker. He was able to put a body lock on Chris Curtis, who has good takedown defense. He did that twice in that fight, right? He was able to TKO Edmund Shabazian on the ground. He has good grappling. He's got a good rear naked choke. I could see him out grappling Jared Cannonier in the early going of this fight, but I keep saying the early going, and that's why I'm not picking him. Because I think Cannonier's experience, his fight IQ, his ability to make adjustments, I think he's going to survive the early going. I think he's going to get beat up a little bit, maybe get taken down. If he doesn't get finished, I think that we're going to see him start to mix it up. I think he's going to start to put Nassourdine on the back foot. And Nassourdine Imavov always slows down in his fights. And I think that Cannonier is either going to finish him in the later rounds. If Cannonier shows up with the same sort of cardio that he had in his last fight, and he also talked about wanting to increase the volume on his punches, because, he got a lot of criticism after the Adesanya fight and after the Strickland fight because people were saying those fights were a little bit slow. If he shows up with a similar approach and makes it out of the first couple rounds, I do think he finishes Nassourdine Imavov, who does tend to fade in his fights. Right? He faded against Buckley. He was even fading in moments against Roman Dolidze and getting tired in that fight. And I don't like to see that. But was at least winning the 5th round against Sean Strickland. Doesn't have the worst gas tank. I don't think we're going to see the same version of Jared Cannonier that we saw last time, because that version was like a mythical fighter. We'll see something that's similar to it, but not the same level. Think Cannonier's still hungry too. I think he's going to win this fight by decision. Right? I don't think it's so likely that we see a finish here, because Nassourdine Imavov, even though he will fade, if it's not the same relentless Cannonier, I do trust in his chin, because he does have a good chin. He doesn't get enough credit for it, but I've seen Nassourdine Imavov get hit with some big haymakers throughout his career, and I've never seen him get rocked. But this is a close fight, and it's really interesting, because I think Imavov has the grappling advantage. I think he has a sneaky ability to hurt people to the midsection. And I think he is going to be able to really utilize a good range game in this fight with Jared Cannonier, right? Strickland, we didn't really see Strickland throw a whole lot of teeps against Cannonier, but I think Nassourdine Imavov is going to throw a lot of teeps in this fight. It's going to be interesting, but I think we're going to see a tide shift. I think Cannonier is going to, if he has trouble finding the mark in the early going, I think he'll start going to the body. He'll start to find the head because of it. And I think he'll pull this one off by a decision when Nassourdine Imavov fades. But do not count Imavov's chances out at getting a submission or, who knows, getting a finish. It's something having to do with teeps to the midsection in the early going of this fight. But I'm picking Cannonier by decision, okay? Just because, he's proven he's beat Sean Strickland. That win has aged well. People say that he lost that fight. No, he didn't. I've watched that fight 5 times. Everyone says I've watched it a million times. And every time I see it, I've never seen it for not Sean Strickland. Well, I'm the other way. Every time I see that fight, I think Jared Cannonier wins. The thing is, yeah, he didn't land that many head strikes, but he landed a lot to the body. He landed a lot to the legs. And he did a really good job of landing to the body and the legs. And whenever he would land, sort of like Costa Strickland, for every one of Strickland's flimsy punches, Cannonier would land like a haymaker. Or for every 3 of Sean Strickland's flimsy punches, Cannonier would land a solid, damaging shot upstairs that would spin his head back. He won that fight, and he made good adjustments. And I think that Strickland's a much trickier out than Nassourdine Imavov. But Imavov's young. He's rapidly improving. But again, the fact that he couldn't finish Roman Dolidze is a big problem, because he almost had him out of there in the early going of that fight, but he couldn't finish him. And I think that Cannonier is going to be much trickier, because he's a world better than Roman Dolidze on the feet. Cannonier by decision until next time.